Okay, thank you, thank you. So I believe it was mentioned that my name is Olli, and possibly also that I come from Helsinki, Finland. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Kokoa. So nowadays I work as an entrepreneur, but originally I'm a teacher. I graduated as a class teacher about 5 years ago. So I was thinking that as I'm a teacher, let's start with the very school kind of activity. Can you please stand up and let's get your body woken up again. And then just a simple thing. Well, in Finland we have a very famous philosophist who always makes people to hug each other in his presentations, but let's not hug. It's way too non-Finnish thing to do. So let's give a high five to the person next to you. Perfect. Little team spirit activity in the beginning. All right, perfect. And that's it. That's all. Now you can sit down, or you can stand up if you want. Okay. Thank you, Van Ann and Paul, for paving the way of talking about the design of learning applications and learning games. Two perfect topics to bring up before my speech: creativity and computational thinking. Talking about coding itself, I see it as a very creative action. Well, I did this very non-academic research before coming here, because the thing that I try as an entrepreneur is to change education, change learning, and change the school system to be very something likable, something lovely, something inspirational and engaging. And I'm having this thought in my mind based on my own school experiences that people don't really like going to school nowadays. Maybe a little bit more than when I was a child, but still school is not something that we would voluntarily do unless we have to. And to prove my point here, I went to Instagram and I started checking that what are the different I love posts that people are doing. And at the top of the list, I love my job. Of course, I love dogs. And most importantly for me, I love pizza was there, ranking quite high. So how about I love school? 40K posts, not too bad. I was actually expecting a lower number, so I wasn't too disappointed. But then I thought that, okay, let's try this one. And the reality slapped against my face, 3 times more posts. And on top of this, there's also I hate exams, I hate teachers, I hate science. So I'd say that the situation is not that too good. And being honest, I didn't like going to school. The best thing that could happen to me when I was in primary school was that I became sick. I was really happy. If I catch a fever, I was really happy for that because I didn't have to go to school. And this one time, we even tried to catch a fever with a friend of mine during the winter. We went swimming with my friend in a swimming hall. But when we cycled back to our home, 5 kilometers, we didn't wear woolen hats. We took off the scarves. We rode a bike with open jackets, trying to catch a fever. So that's how much I liked going to school. But maybe for one reason or another, I still started studying to become a teacher. I wanted to change the system a bit. And well, after graduation, I started teaching and things didn't go too well. After my first year of teaching, I was able to do these posts on Instagram as well. And well, I would say that in those lessons that were really structured, like in math, I was able to give a lot of exercises for students, able to keep them active constantly, give feedback on the go. Those lessons, they went quite well. But every time when I was teaching a subject that was not that structured, for example, gymnastics or music, I needed to plan those lessons for hours. And most of the times I didn't bother. I just went there to the classroom and sort of wing it. And it didn't go well. In music, for example, I always wanted to play band instruments with my 9-year-old students, but maybe one of them knew how to play something, so it ended up as a disaster every time. A lot of social problems appeared when kids were not activated and engaged. And then I started thinking that, as I'm a bit of a musician myself, and I started my musical path in life, I started it by making songs with computer. So I thought that maybe technology could help in this. And I had this idea in my mind of an application that could be used for composing songs in classroom. And eventually I ended up working in a Finnish company that had developed a technology that could be used in this application. And then after a while we launched the application and I started touring different schools in Finland, hosting lessons using the composing application. And these lessons that I was hosting changed my perspective on teaching and learning in schools completely. I saw exactly the same kind of stories that Paul was describing previously, unleashing students' creativity and making them engaged throughout the lessons, making them active throughout the lessons. And then I started thinking that this kind of approach should be applied to all different subjects and all different kind of learning. And of course, the society around us is changing rapidly. We are living in smart cities and we have Wi-Fi everywhere. There are so many possibilities. Technology provides so many possibilities for us, and it's so important part of our lives nowadays that school needs to give these skills of using technology in the right way already in school, teaching coding, computational thinking, and so on. And also, for example, in Finland nowadays, the curriculum, it requires teachers to use technology in teaching. But as we all know, it's not that easy. Many things have gone wrong, probably in every different country that has implemented the strategy of education technology. Maybe the most famous one is the story from Los Angeles, where there was a lack of strategy, decisions were made too much in hurry, and lack of good quality content was one of the main problems there as well. And the content, lack of content, content being very fragmented, and the quality of the content being relatively low, those are the problems that we, with our company, Cocoa, aim to solve. And well, there's several market scans made. There's more than 200,000 applications only in App Store under education category. Basically nowadays everybody can publish an educational app or, for example, a math game. So it goes without saying that the quality of those applications, it varies heavily, and too many of them are not designed accordingly with pedagogical principles and learning theories. And that is something that we aim to solve. And we aim to solve it through our ecosystem of evaluating the educational quality. It consists of the evaluation tool. It's an evaluation method put into a form of a software. Then we issue the certificates for the best quality applications that meet with the pedagogical criteria. And then we present those products in our EdTech catalog that will be published on 30th of this month. We have been working with about 100 companies now, evaluated around 100 products. Among those products is I could say the leading EdTech providers, like Arduino that was mentioned earlier, and Little Bits, one of the maybe the most successful EdTech companies at the moment. And the reason why those companies have turned to us and asked for our help is probably because teachers have experience on using education technology, and too many times these experiences are not only positive. And me myself as well, I was using many different apps, and I realized that these are not worth it. They're not good. So I became quite suspicious towards the quality of the EdTech apps. And because people are relatively suspicious towards the quality, they need evidence. And that we aim to provide for these companies. So when we evaluate the educational quality, it all begins with pedagogy. The same way as you can evaluate a teacher, whether the teacher is engaging the students the right way, encouraging them, motivating them, giving them feedback, and so on. What kind of different assignments the teacher gives to the students, and how do the different activity types rotate during one lesson. That is a pedagogical approach that the teacher is using in teaching. The same way, every application that provides learning activities has a pedagogical approach, and it can be evaluated using the same pedagogical principles as we would use when evaluating teachers. And where do these pedagogical principles, where do they raise from? Well, learning theories. For example, Albert Bandura and Maria Montessori, one of the most famous researchers in the field of education and psychology. So when you are choosing for an application or when you're designing an application, you need to consider all these amazing learning theories. For example, social learning theory, that social interaction is always part of our learning and we learn from each other. That should be considered in an application as well, social sharing, sharing the best practices and so on. Maria Montessori's findings that students, in order to be engaged, they need some autonomy. The activities need to be student-centered. They need to be given possibilities to choose how they want to learn. She mixed her age groups among the learners and so on. So very, very good practices that have been proven to be effective in learning. So these need to be applied in EdTech design as well. Very simple example. Well, nowadays, I think that if you consider the classroom setting, everybody sits quiet, like you are sitting at the moment, and they sit in rows, and they listen. They're not allowed to speak whenever you need to raise your hand in order to get a chance to say something. That's very passive way of learning. But it's pretty good for the purposes of classroom teaching, because we need to be able to predict what was learned during my lesson. And we need to be able to evaluate what was learned during my lesson. And if you do a lot of project-based teaching, learning through exploration, there's no guarantee that the things that the students learned were exactly the same. So it's harder to predict. And it's also maybe a bit harder to evaluate what was learned, except if you are using technology. For example, in these examples that Paul previously showed to us, you can start reasoning quite well what was learned when the Norwegian 14-year-old girl made the video. What was the thought process behind it, and what were the things that she was practicing when doing the video. So with education technology, everything is saved, and also the student data collection allows us to do ongoing assessment continuously. Simple things that a good learning solution provides to, of course, gives tasks that motivate to learn, meaning that a good application gives a meaningful context for learning, explains what is right, what is wrong, and why. This is part of the feedback. Too many times in application, kids do an interaction, they answer to a quiz, for example, and they are only said that wrong answer, next one. They're not explained why the answer was wrong, or if they get the right answer, they're not explained why was the answer right. So this kind of reasoning should always be given to students. Guiding the learner the right way provides information to deepen the understanding. So this is the same action that teacher needs to do. So when you are able to memorize something, then you need to be able to apply the thing that you have learned, for example, for creative purposes or sharing it to someone else. When it comes to bad learning solutions, they might even take the learning to a wrong direction by asking questions that are not relevant, or asking questions from the student that have not been taught. And in the worst case scenario, student thinks that I'm not a good learner because I don't know the answers to these questions. So it's really important to pick the good applications. It all starts from the learning goals. Of course, the application that you're using in teaching, it needs to align with the curriculum that you're following, but also the future skills, 21st century skills that Van Aan was mentioning previously, those are really important. Now in Finland, we have a new curriculum, and it focuses strongly on different skills, not so much on information adoption anymore. It's more about skills. But defining very specific learning goals and understanding very specifically what this application is teaching, that is at the core of the good use of education technology. We do the matching of the learning goals using our software. Basically, it means that we compare them against a specific curriculums. And that's as simple as it is. We use a classification of didactic goals, meaning that the application gives direct instructions, or facilitative goals, meaning that it requires teacher to be there to facilitate the situation so that specific skills are being learned. When we assess the pedagogy, we have formed these qualitative measurement method based on thematic learning. So there's a set of statements that the evaluator is replying to after he or she has formed a very comprehensive picture of what are the different learning activities that the application provides and how do they treat the learner. And this is the way how we present the results. We use 4 different pedagogical dimensions in the evaluations. Individual, collaborative is one of these. So we measure, is there social aspect being part of the learning experience when using the application. And the social aspect, it can mean face-to-face collaboration. Does the application allow that, or does it even encourage that, or does it even reward if you do face-to-face collaboration? Or does it provide a learner's community where you can share, for example, your creative outcomes that you have done when using the application? In creative activities, sharing is very crucial, so that you know that this work that I'm doing, it has a meaning because other people are going to see it, and then I might get some feedback and so on. It's exciting. And the way how we give the results for our clients is that we list the strengths that they have, strengths related on these pedagogical dimensions, and also development areas, so that we point them that it might be better if you refine your application this way, so this pedagogical principle would be applied much better. As a recap, when it comes to design of good educational application, it has very specific, very clear learning goals. It must be clear for the learner and for the teacher as well. What are we going to learn when we're using this application? Pedagogical approach, as mentioned previously, it needs to guide the learning process in the right way, applying those pedagogical best practices. Usability, how it engages the learner. This means the graphics, the sounds, and does it give autonomy, and is it easy enough to use? These are also really important aspects. And safety, of course, the data privacy and those sorts of things, if there's social interaction between users, how does it function, is it safe? All those issues need to be taken care as well. And our approach in the future is that we see that teachers need to be positioned in the center of digitalization of education, because teachers know best what they want to use in classrooms. They know what functions, what doesn't function. So we want to open our evaluation software for all the teachers in the world so that if they know that this is a good application that I have been using in my classroom and it functions, they can log into our system, they can do a quick evaluation of it, then we assign the same evaluation task for other teachers, and that way verify that the results are systematic and they're valid, and then issue the certificate and publish the product on the platform. And we hope that our platform will be a go-to place for all the teachers to find the best applications. Time 000, I think I nailed it. Okay, thank you very much.